Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired. Check show notes for link. ADHD Rewired, episode number 22. Conversations from the ADA Conference. This is the show designed to help those of us who have really good intentions and a slightly wandering attention. Whether you have ADHD or you want to learn more about it, or you're looking for ways to organize your time, your things, and the many details of life so you can get more done, this show is for you. I am your host, Eric Tivers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, coach, and consultant. We know that starting can be the hardest part, so let's get started.
I was like a lot of people, I believe, the myths that were out there, and I didn't want him taking medication. I'm someone who doesn't take medication, and I believed he shouldn't take medication.
When the paperwork is always behind and paperwork feels just like it's covered in glue and it's covered in kryptonite and it just drains your energy, that's a strong sign that you're dealing with ADHD.
I am super excited to bring you not just today's show, but the next month or so. I have a bunch of great conversations that I'm here to share with you from the 2014 ADA conference. One thing that I didn't anticipate is how exhausting being on the entire week that I was there would actually be. But I got a number of just amazing interviews. The interview you're going to hear today are actually two interviews. I first got to interview Ava Green, and then following that, I interviewed Rick Green. Now, if you don't know who these people are, have you ever seen the PBS documentary ADD and Loving It, and then their sequel they had, which was ADD and Mastering It, which I believe they said aired over 2 million times, or had over 2 million viewers. And they have an amazing website, too. So Rick Green is a comedian and has been in kind of show business for a long time and has done a really amazing work at bringing ADHD into more of the public discourse. So I first got to sit down for a while with Ava, and she was so generous with her time and just a kind woman. I felt like I could talk to her forever. And she was just really, really warm. And then I got to talk to Rick for maybe about 7 or 8 minutes in the hallway. Now, you will hear that some of the conversations that you're going to hear over the next month or so, some of the audio, I thought the quality was pretty good, but there is some background noise because I was catching people kind of in the hallways of this conference hall. So I hope you can tolerate some of the distracting sounds in the background. I did do some kind of sound editing just to decrease some of what you were hearing, but I didn't want to take away from the content. So today's episode is going to start with Ava Green and then Rick Green. So I hope you enjoy what you can look forward to over the next several episodes. Let me grab my notebook here and tell you who you were going to hear from. Oh, the other thing I wanted to also say is, so on the first day that I was there, I was going around and I went up to Jeff Copper, who you may or may not know, hosts the podcast Attention Talk Radio. And so I went and asked him about how things were going, and I was recording. And after I stopped recording, he says to me, "Hey, just curiosity, are you getting waivers for people?" And it was both good and bad when he asked me that. It was good because it was a really good question, and I realized that, you know what, I need to be smart about this. So it was bad because I felt more inhibited for a while because I wasn't just kind of going up to random people, because I realized I would need to then get releases from them in order to use their name and stuff like that on the podcast. So I say it was good and bad because it was the responsible thing to do. I wish I would have thought about that beforehand. But Rick and Ava Green, actually, Ava sent me what they use for some of the things that they do, and so I was able to kind of edit some of the stuff so it fit for the podcast. So you hear me actually talk a little bit about that. I think when I'm interviewing one of them, So I just wanted to let you guys know that. So it was really interesting. It was a learning experience. I think that I'll probably do this again when I go to the CHAD conference, with the one difference I noticed that on my Audio Technica mic that for most of the interviews, I was just, was on my track, and then the microphone that's part of my recorder. One had a better audio than the other, so I'm actually going to get a second mic and just use the microphones. So that's probably a little bit more podcast geek talk than you want to hear. So without further ado, I want to get these episodes to you, but I am holding my notebook in hand. So here's what, in no particular order, you're going to be hearing over the next month or so. So I talked to Kristen Milliken from ADHD. I talked with Terry Matlin. We had a great conversation. I also had a wonderful conversation with Linda Rogley of ADD Diva. I talked to Alan Brown of ADD Crushers. I talked to Mike Fidel. You guys probably don't know, but hopefully you will soon. And I think that's really it. I had some snippets of some other people throughout that I may or may not use. But I'm thrilled to do this because I really like talking to people. It's a lot more fun than talking to others than it is to talking to myself. And I'm going to shut up now and bring you the interview with Ava Green. Enjoy. I'm sitting here with Ava Green from TotallyADD.com.
Either URL will get you to the right spot.
That was very smart.
Yeah.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
You have to consider all those spelling errors
Absolutely.
as well. I'm not sure how you can spell ADHD incorrectly. Although I did have a client once tell me that they thought for the longest time that it was the number 80. And
that's funny.
HD.
Okay.
So you may or may not know Ava Green. She is I'd probably say maybe the better half, the organized half, the linear thinker of Rick Green. I'm really great at forgetting names the moment I need to use them, even when I actually know the person's name.
I can so relate to that. I'm an editor, so I get information, I prune it out of my brain almost instantly sometimes. So yes.
So it's getting that information right at the right place.
Yes.
Or you'll remember you needed a piece of information, but it's not available.
It's gone.
So tell me a little bit about what you do. Kind of what's your role in TotallyADD.com, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about what it's like to be married to a totally ADD funny guy.
Yeah. So my role, it started out with co-producing ADD and Loving It with Rick. And I was the editor of ADD and Loving It as well.
And for those of you that don't know, ADD and Loving It was a documentary that was made on PBS.
Yeah.
How many viewers?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea. So we're Canadian, and so initially we were commissioned by a broadcaster, Global Television in Canada, to do this documentary, which is important to know, I think, for people. We get funding from the Canadian government to create television. So it was an independent documentary, and when I say documentary, that's kind of a loose description of what it is. It's more fun than most documentaries.
Commentary?
Yeah, that's a good name for it. So we created it for Global Television, and then PBS picked it up. They ran it for 2 years. So millions of people have seen it through PBS. And the good news is they ran it for 2 years. Then they ran our follow-up special, ADD and Mastering
Which I loved, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, which was more kind of on the ground, how do you deal with ADHD. We've just signed a contract. They're going to run ADD and Loving It again for the next 3 years.
Awesome.
Yes,
Congratulations.
starting August. Thank you. We're so excited because we get so much mail from people who see our documentaries on PBS and, people who don't know what's going on or people who suspect, and it really gives them permission to move to the next step. So it's really lovely. So when we were shooting ADD and Loving It in 2008 and 2009 and interviewing the best experts, some of the best experts in North America, we realized that it would be irresponsible to put the documentary out there and not have a place for people to go afterwards, because people would need to know what to do next.
And the website, TotallyADD.com, has so much rich information.
Right. Thank you. That's why we built it. We knew people would want to know, how do I get a diagnosis? What do I do? Where do I go? So we have hours of free videos on Totally ADD.
And the thing that I love about what you guys are doing is that It's just similar to what I'm kind of doing with my podcast, is I'm putting out this information that is, it's a serious topic, but I'm also not taking it so seriously.
Yeah.
Because, this stuff can be so hard.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to bring that very human element to it. Like, yes, I'm a psychotherapist. I have ADHD. But so I'm taking that knowledge of what I know clinically and kind of just distilling it down so it can be more of a conversation piece. Because I think that while there's a lot of other ADHD podcasts that are wonderful, and I've listened to all of them.
Yes.
I'm trying to provide both I kind of describe ADHD Rewired as the, it's ADHD on both sides of the couch.
Cool.
So it's...
I love that, because what we do on Totally ADD is we try to show people not what ADHD is in terms of a diagnostic manual, right? So people hear these, or they see, the explanation of what it is clinically, and we try to take the clinical part out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We show, it's like, you forget things multiple times. It's like, so people forget things every day.
Right.
But is it an issue for you? Are you forgetting it so many times? Do you lose your key so many times in a day that it's now an issue for you? That's when you want to start looking for help.
Mm-hmm.
If you're losing your keys and it's not a big issue, then it's not, you haven't crossed that threshold. That's fine. But if it's become an issue for you, then you need to start looking for help. So what we do is we do make light of it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a video where Rick walks in and out of the door, I don't know how many times, to show that example of how it looks in real life. And it's comical, but it shows people what it is in everyday life rather than what it is from a diagnostic manual explanation of ADHD.
One of my favorite things to get from people, and I do this a lot on Facebook, is prompting the question ADHD is, with a specific story that you can kind of pull out of the big picture of what ADHD is. I'm wondering if you can give us a couple ADHD is kind of experiences that you've had with Rick that, it's those kind of specific examples of something.
That's a very good question. So I'm going to tell a long story that I'm going to make as short as I possibly can. So when I first started dating Rick, his marriage had just ended a year before, and mine was like freshly ended. He had just been diagnosed with ADHD, and he had just started taking medication. And I didn't understand. I was like a lot of people, I believe the myths that were out there, and I didn't want him taking medication. I'm someone who doesn't take medication, and I believed he shouldn't take medication. So he stopped, and then I watched him go through a cycle of getting a television show, having 20 plates spinning in the air, and thriving, right? The center of the storm, the eye of the storm, and life couldn't be better. Then the show would finish, things would start to wrap down, he would start to go into depression, and then he would have to struggle through days and weeks and months of not having that outer pull that kept him going.
Did he know he was struggling at the time?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Yes,
okay.
he did. So, and he would have to rally to get that next show pitched and going. And then once it was going, he'd be thriving again, right? And I watched this cycle a couple of times, and I thought, oh, maybe this is what he's talking about. This is he needs help when there's that lull. So ADHD is, to me, that motor that runs in people. We all have it, and when we're thriving, it's great. But that motor in people with ADHD doesn't stop. And when you don't have those great things happening, that motor's still going, and that motor's running like in deep water.
So in it kind of to summarize, it sounds like ADHD is being able to carry loads of freight.
Yes.
But if you ever stop, you're going to need to go to the repair shop to get started again.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good analogy. Really good analogy.
That was not a bad summarization for only 5 hours of sleep.
Yes. But, I think, the thing is that your motor probably is still going even with 5 hours of sleep. So it's like you're unaware that motor's going. There's this motor. And so, you get by on 5 hours of sleep and you're unaware of your body, So he was like, he'd be going, and then he'd crash.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of that understanding the big picture of executive functioning is that it's a resource pool, and the more you use your executive functions, the less you're going to have available, and understanding the time kind of continuum that that the older you get, the longer that time horizon actually is for your fuel tank to be empty. So.
Someone just took a picture of us.
So I just got distracted by a shiny object.
Yes.
What was I saying?
You were talking about it being a resource pool. You need the non-ADD right?
It's so funny. My listeners will tell me that their favorite parts of the show are when I lose my train of thought and just leave it in.
That's okay, because then we just move on to the next topic.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what happens, and this is a big aha for me. My first CHAD conference 5 years ago, I went into that CHAD conference thinking I'm an expert in ADHD. I have it, and I'm treating it. And after my first talk, listening to Russell Barkley, I was like, I have so much to learn. and I went through, and I was such a good student. I bought a whole pile of books, and in a very un-ADHD-like manner, I read all of them.
Wow.
Although I guess that can be the hyper-focus part.
Yes.
So after that really year of really diving into everything, starting to get the Journal of Attention Disorders, really like being a serious clinician about this. So I started using all of these new strategies, and probably for about 2 months, I was like more productive than I'd ever been, and then I ran out of steam. And then I had about a month where it was like, what am I doing? Like nothing.
Yeah. It's amazing how you can just fritter away a day, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that knowing your patterns is so important, I found, to really be able to recharge your battery, because if you wait until you feel empty, you've waited too long.
So I have a question for you. Yeah. So, I don't know if this is an ADHD thing or just a workaholic thing, but it took Rick a long time to learn that there are days where you do need to fritter away a day, and you do need to just go like stare at a lake or just be.
My wife tells me that I need to do that more.
Yeah. You don't allow it, though, right?
I think for multiple reasons. I think the stuff that I'm doing right now I'm really enjoying. But I definitely... I had those thoughts of, man, I'm tired, and I'm working too late, and
so there's two things that come up for me. One is I never want to ever be without a coach again in my life. We really promote coaches, and we have a business coach. Rick has had ADHD coaches on and off in his life, and I think that for processing stuff and for someone else telling you, take the day off, and our coaches told us this, you can't work 7 days a week, which we often do.
What?
I know, it's shocking. And so, we have to have a coach say to us, okay, what day is going to be your day off this week? And we do that. And the other savior for me has been yoga, but it's because there's a schedule, and I've booked myself in. I've booked myself into that yoga class, and I'm going to go to that yoga class. And so even for people without ADHD, I think that those are important things to do, to actually have someone who's on your side, who's working with you, if you can do it, having that coach, that voice, that is, your voice of reason, and then actually scheduling yourself so that you get there, you do those things, and for me, it's yoga.
And it's, we know that one of the kind of sayings about ADHD is that you know what to do, but you don't do it. Yeah. And so it's having that I find that, even for someone like myself, like I can tell you 1,001 strategies for a single problem.
Yeah.
But when you actually have that executive dysfunction and you're not connecting what you know you want to do and are even thinking about, but not turning it into a behavioral action.
Yeah.
To me, that's
or not
that's
be able to
neurological.
prioritize it so that there's all these things you want to do. Rick always has this list of things he wants to do, and just to prioritize it. That's when our coach is really handy, because she knows the overarching what needs to be done and says, okay, let's tackle this one today, or let's
So how does he prioritize? What's his actual method, really detail wise?
His coach.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't trust Rick to prioritize for him, because he gets so excited about so many things. He has so many ideas.
So relates.
Yeah, and and he's a verbal processor, so he'll just spew these ideas. And actually, the coach has been a good mediator for us, because I'm the person who executes the ideas. So I get overwhelmed as he's verbally processing all of his ideas, and it's stop, I can't hear it. And the coach is like, no, don't stop. You keep telling me. I'm capturing them all for you. So she will capture them all, and she'll say to Rick, okay, which is more important to get done today? Is it more important to do this off your list? What's the short list, first of all? And then let's look at what is it we're going to go for today, and I'll support you in getting that done today.
Great.
Yeah.
I was talking with, I think it was actually my last guest or two guests ago that I was talking with, who's a web designer. And he was sharing with me that, he does a lot of project management, and but sometimes he forgets something that was talked about. So one of the things that I suggested to him was to record the conversations he's having with his clients, and then get someone to transcribe that conversation and pull out the action items and put it into a list.
Yes.
And you can do something like that on a lot of the Elance kind of virtual assistant type of websites, and you can get that done for not that expensive.
Cool.
So it was kind of making me think,
yeah.
To get all that's why I podcast, because I would love to be a writer. I'm not a writer. That delete button is my enemy. And by the time I'm halfway through typing the sentence, I'm already 4 thoughts ahead, and I don't remember the second half of the sentence.
Yes.
So it's I'm good at thinking on the fly.
Yes.
I'm more impromptu.
Yeah.
And
Rick uses Dragon software.
Yeah. How is that for him?
He loves it. It took a little bit to kind of transfer over from writing, typing writing to speaking writing. But once he got used to that, he actually uses it quite a bit for writing now, and just for thoughts. Absolutely, yeah.
It's really funny. Because I do a lot of the voice text and stuff when I'm doing any kind of writing, and I was leaving somebody a voicemail, and in my voicemail I spoke the word comma. And I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, you're trained. Your voice software has you trained.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you said you have something else coming out soon.
Well, we have ADD and Loving It coming out again in August.
And there's going to be new content.
It's still ADD and Loving It.
Okay.
It's still ADD and Loving It. There's still a lot of people who haven't seen it. I mean, if you think about how many people potentially have ADHD, there's still a lot of people out there who are potentially struggling and don't know why.
Yeah.
So, we really want as many people to see that as possible. And hopefully get some value and have a light bulb go off. We're working on new videos for Totally ADD all the time. We're actually, this is a secret, we're working on another special for PBS on memory.
Awesome.
Yeah, with the guy who's the 2-time Guinness World Record holder for memory, Dave Farrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing a special about him.
Is that the one Josh something?
I don't know who that is. No.
There's a TED Talks about the feats of memory, and this guy's a journalist, and he goes to basically report on this on this contest. It's a memory contest.
Okay.
And he decides to go approach it as kind of I'm forgetting what they call it, the experiential journalism.
Okay.
So he
tries to do it.
Yeah, and he ends up winning the contest.
Wow.
So he and and I show this video to a lot of my clients.
Cool.
It talks a lot about visualization and and not going through and writing everything down, but picture everything and create absurdity, because absurdities stick out in our brain more.
Yes.
So it's a
similar approach to what Dave Farrow is doing. He has lots of techniques. We did a webinar with him. It's still it's up on our webinar page on Totally ADD. He tripled everyone's working memory during the webinar, like within 10 minutes. Absolutely.
Wow.
Great techniques. But he is someone who has ADHD, dyslexia, and was basically told when he was in grade school, you might as well take a different path other than academia because you will never make it. And he did not accept that as his path.
I think some people with ADHD, they hear that, and because of their ADHD, that almost motivates them to a degree. But it's also heartbreaking to hear that as well.
It is heartbreaking to hear that, and thank goodness he didn't listen to that teacher. And who knows, maybe that teacher told him that, because he thought it would motivate Dave. But either way, Dave looks at it as a gift, and he did a lot of research in himself, and then he's had some neurologists actually prove some of his theories. They've done some research that's now proved some of Dave's theories. So that'll all be part of what we're doing for this next project.
When do you think it's going to be out?
Well, our distributor would like it to be out for spring of 2015.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
That's what we're aiming for. Yes.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and I really appreciate you sitting down with me and talking with me. For the non-ADHD partners, spouses that are out there who are maybe new to this whole, what, my partner has ADHD, that's not real, or whatever maybe their thought might be about that. Maybe some words of wisdom that you can give.
So as someone who was a non-believer, and Rick talks about this as well in his speeches, it's thinking that is my caveat to people. Even when you've learned things, all the books that you've read from Russell Barkley, it's like, it's good to have that knowledge, and we tell people learn as much as you can, because this is one condition where knowledge makes a huge difference. But don't ever feel like you have all the knowledge, because it's changing all the time. Brains are complex. We don't even understand probably a quarter of what's happening in our brains. So knowledge is great, but never think you know it all. And I learn from people every day. I learn from my husband every day. And I take ADHD out of the equation in our relationship. It's, I try to just look at things as one human being to another, rather than one human being with ADHD and one human being without.
Okay.
Not to dismiss his ADHD or if he's struggling, but just to not make it significant. It's just who we are, and I just honor him as a human being.
Because he clearly has so many talents and skills.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not everything about him, ADHD.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of communication is...
Communication's great. Yes, absolutely. And we talk about in our relationship workshops that we do, our approach is, when we are struggling with something, he gets a vote, I get a vote, the relationship gets a vote. We treat it as three people.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I'd love to,
or three entities.
I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah,
That's great.
It's a great way to do it, because it's like, okay, this is what's good for you. Is this what's good for the relationship?
Great. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ava, so much for your time.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure, Eric. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. I want to thank again Ava Green. And before we talk to her husband, Rick Green, I want to thank our sponsor. ADHD Rewired listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. You can check out books like Crazy Busy, Overstretched, Overbooked, and About to Snap. Strategies for Coping in a World Gone ADD by Ned Hallowell. They have both the full version or the ADD-friendly version, meaning the abridged version, which is read by Ned Hallowell. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired for your free audiobooks. I am here with Rick Green, who doesn't know this, but you are my number 2 person I was trying to get an interview with this weekend.
All right.
Ned Hallowell's number 1.
Right. And how many did you want to speak to, Eric? 2. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
And I had the wonderful opportunity to talk to your wife, who, man, you're a lucky guy.
I am an extremely lucky guy. But don't tell her that, because she'll move on to someone way better, and that'll be bad.
But my wife and I, our biggest argument that we've had since the day we got married, we each say that we're the lucky one. So I think I'm the lucky one.
Very good.
So I know you only have a few minutes, so I wanted to quickly ask you your top 5 list, and I just made the top 5 up right now.
Could be 12 by the time I'm done.
Absolutely. Yes. About ADHD is. What is ADHD? Give us those kind of real life kind of moments that capture ADHD.
ADHD is drawing up a list of what you're going to do today and then adding up the hours and realizing you've just written down almost 14 hours worth of stuff. And so you say, well, I've got the next 2 days planned, and since it'll be over 2 days, I better put in a couple of things for tomorrow. And then you add it up again, and you're now looking at 31 hours. And so you think, well, I'll plan the whole week, even though you've forgotten that you've done this 1,000 times and never actually followed any of these organizational lists, and you have a whole section of your computer called to-dos and lists and Tuesday's list and Wednesday's list, and there's 4 named Wednesday's list, and you never get to any of them. And then when you finally give up at 2 in the afternoon, the day's gone, and you're so upset with yourself for wasting another day that you don't do anything. You just need to take a break.
That sounds like my last Tuesday.
Exactly. So that's one sign. Trying to organize and spending all that time organizing because it's interesting, and then never actually getting something done. It's about being hyper-focused on what interests you and bored to tears when it doesn't interest you. So standing in line at the ATM while somebody walks up and then opens their purse and then hunts through for their wallet, and you're standing there with your card ready to go bang, 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 and you're frustrated. Traffic. Frustrating. A boring meeting, shoot me. A party with small talk, how about the weather? How did you come here? Did you take Highway 7? Boring. Interesting conversation, I'm there. When I'm with ADHD people, the conversation reads like an abridged version of a Shakespearean drama. Just bang, 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 and it ricochets everywhere. And the people with ADHD are following me, and everyone else is sorry, you lost me? What did you... And so on. ADHD is blurting stuff out. It's being lost in your head. It's being daydreaming. It's being charismatic sometimes, or having a sense of humor, being a lateral thinker, having incredible curiosity sometimes about different things, a great talker, but not a great listener, easily distracted. And it's only when you start realizing there's a reason I don't like bars, noisy bars, and it's not because I don't like drinking or sports or being around people. It's I can't hear anyone over the noise. Because the filtering,
I have that same issue.
Yeah, it's finding that the tags on clothing drive you nuts, or the high neckline drives you nuts. For my daughter, she's not ADHD, but there were certain clothes she just couldn't wear. ADHD people, when they find something they like, they buy 30 pairs of them and wear them. And it's about executive function. Ultimately, it's about organizing and so on. So that aspect of ADHD is. The stuff that is logical, organized, linear, not great. We get a piece of furniture from IKEA or somewhere, I glance at the picture on the box and I start. Other people at the other end of the...
What are these 4 screws supposed to be for?
Exactly. And then I go and build something with the extra screws. Whereas the people at the other end of the spectrum will lay out all the parts, take a good stiff drink, read through the instructions twice, match each part. That's the other extreme end. And so what I do works well. You'll find in jobs where people need to be quick to react, improv, comedy, show business, stock market, fire, rescue, anyone who's in sales, ADHD. That's where you'll find us. ER doctors. A family doctor, the one who sits with you, Eric, how have you been the last year? It's good to see you again. How is that going? How's it? That's not us. The ADHD doctor is, what do you got? I can fix it. I'm the hero. Next. What do you got? I can fix it, and so on. So there are certain fields where you will find us, where we soar. And one of the things we're really big on at Totally ADD is getting people to realize there is a place where you could soar. We just did a video on the perfect career for ADHD, and it's powerful to get people realizing, oh, I could be doing this, or I could be doing something else at my company, or I could just let go of this part of my job and focus on this thing I'm great at.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs lately, and the whole notion of getting fired might be the best thing that ever happened. I mean, I got laid off from my last job, and that's when I started my practice. I'm a psychotherapist.
Right.
And I built the business around my strengths, and I hire out the stuff that I have to send my calendar to my biller, which takes me all of 10 minutes, and I put it off.
Absolutely. Well, you'll hear stories of people with ADHD who have completed all their college courses but didn't submit the final essay, or have actually earned
I have
their
a client like that right now.
The last little bit. If you're someone who can start 1,000 things and rarely finishes anything, when the last 10% takes 90% of your energy and just never happens, when the paperwork is always behind and paperwork feels just like it's covered in glue and it's covered in kryptonite and it just drains your energy, that's a strong sign that you're dealing with ADHD. Your mind is not wired for the routine task again and again and again. Now, that said, I've heard that some people with ADHD take on a job on an assembly line, because what happens is they just get into a rhythm. It's like once you've been driving for a while, you don't really notice that, hey, I stopped at this light, or have I sped? No, I guess it's unconscious until someone ahead of you suddenly slams on their brakes. So they can work on a steady job that they're doing, sort of a no-brainer, and it allows their mind to go off. So I know a lot of writers, especially struggling writers, who find a job that does not take anything out, allows them to be busy creating in their head.
It's interesting you say that. My last non-profession related job, I was a dishwasher at a coffee shop in college, and I loved it. I got into this 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 flow, and I scheduled my breaks around when they were cutting onions because I couldn't deal with being next to that.
The onions, yeah.
So you were saying about kind of finishing things at the last minute.
Yeah.
So you know that tonight is the talent show.
Yes.
And last year I wrote a song, and this year I was planning on writing a song. I have not written the song yet.
Eric, you got to go finish your song, but you could do it on stage.
That's actually what I was planning on doing, and I have no idea. I'm planning on doing an element of improv to it and asking for audience support.
Yeah.
I've never tried that before.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping for the best, and I know that if it doesn't work out, I'm with my people, so it's okay.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you got to get people up there to finish give them the next line and ask for the rhyme and see where it goes. Yeah, brilliant.
Are you going to be at the talent show?
Oh, I'll be there. I'm not going to perform tonight. I had so much else to do leading up to this. I wanted to perform, and then I thought, yeah, I'll take a break. So I will be there laughing at you, mocking you, throwing things. It'll be great.
Will you be tweeting? Live tweeting?
Live, sure. No, I don't do that. No, you know what? One of the things I'm learning about my ADHD is all the things that really feel good, like tweeting or Twitter or whatever it is, or being distracted or doing 5 things at once, actually are kind of not good for me, because it ends up emphasizing the scatteredness rather than the... what's better for me in the long term is to actually try to meditate, and not necessarily, and not the classic meditation, but just mindfulness of being aware.
Present,
yeah, we've done some webinars and a video on that, and that's a very powerful practice to just, when I'm agitated, to go, I'm agitated, and then start from there.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about your website and everything that you're doing is that you take, this serious topic of ADHD, because people really are struggling, and you make it not so serious. It's like, life is serious, but we don't have to take ourselves so seriously.
It's amazing how, there's dark humor. There's humor about very dark things. Some of the best comedians have done stuff about painful things, racism and sexism and divorce and Richard Pryor with the drugs and his heart attack, and it's great comedy fodder, right? So it's, I think, once you know what's going on and you're around people who have done the same thing, or you're sharing your story of the dumb thing you did and you're embarrassed at sharing and you're on the verge of tears, and then somebody across the room goes, oh, that's nothing. I was in front of my entire class, and bang, and you just, that, and then you're laughing at them, and then you're able to laugh at yourself, and you're able to go, okay, you can't approach anything if you're frightened of it. Right. It's gotta be. Well,
and it's not even about being frightened. It's accepting that fear, but moving forward anyways.
Yes, absolutely, and getting that, taking away the significance. I'm a big fan of of turning everything into a game. Dealing with ADHD, going to be a game. I use my timer on my phone all the time. Can I not just, I'm going to do this, clean up the kitchen. I'm going to see how long it takes me to clean up the kitchen, because I think I want to go to bed. It's going to take me 20 minutes to clean up the kitchen.
It took you 4 minutes.
Yeah, it took me 4. I was like, okay. And that does a couple of things for me. One is I actually am interested in cleaning the kitchen. I move quickly. And part of me now knows the next night, I don't want to do the dishes and clean it only takes 4 minutes. I now know. So another aspect with ADHD is poor time management. We just overcommit. We say yes to everything. We're interested because you're curious. You're interested. You want to do this? Sure. You want to do this? Sure.
So how do you manage that yourself now?
Well, the simple technique is to say, you know what, that sounds really cool. Let me think about that.
Right. Yeah.
But I always forget to do that. So what I do is actually I can trigger it now. I can kind of catch myself going on this thing. What I'll often do instead is, because someone will say, I'm thinking of, doing an ADHD Zeppelin, right? And it's just, and that would be cool because you sell advertising on the side, and you could have a bungee jumping from the Zeppelin, which would be cool. And so rather than, now in the past what I go is, oh yeah, I'm in. Now what I'll say is, well, you know what? Here's 3 quick ideas that come to mind, and then keep me in mind. But I really have learned to say no to things to a point.
It's very freeing to say no.
Yeah. So I know you want to ask me another question. No.
You totally just threw me off. I was like, wait, what?
See, folks, how I did that? I cut him off. But you know what's going to happen? He's going to ask the question anyway. So go ahead. Ask next question, please. Go ahead.
Now I'm totally in a spot. My brain is freezing.
Excellent. It works. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, if your brain freezes now and then, that could be an ADHD sign, especially if it's during ordinary conversation. Whereas, when there's a major disaster, your brain's alive and you're the one saying, okay, buddy, go this way and get out of the building here. That's another sign you're ADHD.
Well, it's so funny because I've been talking to a few people for the podcast this weekend, and it seems when I'm about to introduce someone and say their name, I can't retrieve it from my brain.
We just we've been working on a project with the Guinness Book of World Records memory champion, Dave Farrow, 2 times champion. He memorized 52 decks of cards shuffled together, and then the record was broken by someone who memorized 59 decks of cards, and that someone was Dave Farrow doing it again. And you have to see what he does, because he had a 10-year-old kid in the audience memorize 17 words and unrelated words in a row: mannequin hand, soda pop, white paint, dollar bill, whatever it was. And this kid could do the list of 17 things in very quickly and did it backwards again.
Oh gosh.
And it was amazing. He did it from the backward, and he's done it with me in one of our webinars. It's astounding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Now, Ava was telling me about that, and the I don't know if you've seen the TED Talks of the feats of memory with, I think, Josh Foer, I think his name is, where he's doing this experiential journalism, and so he wants to cover this memory competition. But as he says, that a memory competition by the nature is very boring, so he tries to study and enter the competition and ends up winning.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's a great TED Talks.
Very, very cool.
So I know you probably have to get going to your next thing. Thank you so much.
My wife's thing I'm going to see, if you will. Pardon the expression, but she's doing a panel now. So.
And because I'm supposed to be asking, do I have permission to use this and make trillions of dollars on it? And I'll send you the link, and you're not going to try to get money from me?
No, I'm not giving you permission. What do you think? No?
The problem with audio is you can't see sarcasm when he's smiling.
All right, fine. Fine. Here, give me some money. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, geez, Eric, that's
an unmarked $1 bill.
300, 400, 500.
Got Linda Ruggus joining us.
Yay!
I'm coming to get him because my husband's on the panel too.
Oh, okay.
We're going to go sit together and we're going to ask questions. My
It's the
husband
spouses of ADD.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
exactly right.
Well, ADHD Rewired listeners, you have just listened to another episode of ADHD Rewired. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. Next week, you will hear my conversation with Linda Rogley of the ADD Diva Network. We talk about authenticity, coming out of the closet with ADHD, and more. If you want to support the show, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave an honest rating and review. This is the best way you can make a difference in the lives of others by making ADHD Rewired appear at the top of iTunes. More people will find it, more people will feel understood. You can also follow ADHD Rewired and share it using SoundCloud. I want to encourage you to not just be a passive listener, but become an active member of our growing online community. Like us on Facebook, but get involved in the community. I will respond to most requests to join the ADHD Rewired Facebook group in 1 to 2 days. Pencil in August 18th for a free webinar all about the ADHD Rewired Coaching and Accountability Group. Go to my website, ADHDrewired.com, to sign up for my newsletter, or just text the number 22828 to Tivers, my last name, Tivers, and you will get notification of any official announcements. I'm shooting for the 18th. There's still a few things that I'm still trying to work out. I am moving forward in this. I keep coming up with new things that I haven't thought of. I'm actually looking to outsource some help to get this going a little bit more quickly because I am so excited to get this going. So if you are looking for help with your task list, your goals, and all those things that seem to get in our way, you won't want to miss this group. A little later that weekend, I caught up again with Ava and asked her if she's excited about what Rick was planning, and she looked concerned. And what she said was,
We can't trust Rick. He gets so excited about so many things. He has so many ideas.
And I know he has ADHD, but I really couldn't imagine what she was so concerned about. So I asked Rick, what ideas do you have for something fun that you want to do this weekend?
You know what? Here's 3 quick ideas that come to mind. Doing an ADHD Zeppelin.
A Zeppelin?
A Zeppelin. Bungee jumping from the Zeppelin, covered in kryptonite, glue, and white paint. But don't tell her that.
Until next time.